Good morning. My wires are, I'm all wired up here. Okay, here we go. Let's try this again. I was going to make a graceful entry, but that's too late for that. So I'm just going to set this aside for a memento. I actually have notes today, so I don't know what that means. Hope you don't have lunch plans. Maybe that's what it means. No, I love that song. I chose it for today because I don't know about you, but I really like to run my life. That's been my biggest obstacle, I guess. If you could say there's one obstacle to the spiritual path, it's being, holding this illusion that we're driving our life. And after time, we have evidence to the contrary, that life doesn't go as we intend, and yet it's hard to let go. It's sort of like they now have self-driving cars on the road, and people are saying, I'm never letting go of the wheel, I want to control. The other thing is that the truth is paradoxical. If you look at a lot of the teachings of Jesus and other master teachers, a lot of these statements sound like they're like contradictory, like the first will be last, and those who give shall receive, and other notions like that. Truth requires us to sort of suspend our rational, normal mind, the way we look at things. And that's why so often we struggle with our spiritual path, is because we sort of have to drop out of the rational mind into this heart space, or this place of intuition, where these things don't make logical sense, but we sense that they're true. Because something may not be factually true, and yet it can be true. And this notion of falling upward, there's a book title that was written by Richard Rohr, who was the minister and I think he's a Franciscan. Anyway, he's a wonderful author, and he wrote this book called Falling Upward. And I thought I would take off on this notion today, because so often you and I will judge life when it doesn't go the way we want, and we're going to call it bad, yeah? Because we know, right? We know what's good and what should be happening and what shouldn't be happening. And yet, if we can expand our understanding and actually suspend our judgment, we may discover that that which seems to be bad news in a larger context is what? Is good news. Is anyone up for that kind of shift? I know that none of you have any bad news in your life, but think about your friends and family and how you can preach to them after today. So I want to start with this poem, that one of my favorite poems by Antonio Machado, who was a Spanish poet. And the name of the poem is Last Night as I Was Sleeping. And he talks about this notion of what seems to be happening, but if I look at it differently, it may be something else. He says, last night as I was sleeping, I dreamt marvelous error, that a spring was breaking out in my heart. And I said, along which secret aqueduct, O water, are you coming to me, water of a new life that I have never drunk? Last night as I was sleeping, I dreamt marvelous air, that I had a beehive here inside my heart, and the golden bees were making white combs and sweet honey from my old failures. Last night as I was sleeping, marvelous air, that a fiery sun was giving light inside my heart. It was fiery because I felt a warmth as from a hearth, and sun because it gave light and brought tears to my eyes. Last night as I slept, I dreamt marvelous air, that it was God I had inside my heart. It's so easy for us to pass judgment And if the spiritual path was easy, then we would all be enlightened today, yes? But so often it asks us to suspend judgment because even from a very logical perspective, for us to decide that something shouldn't have happened, we have to see not only what we can see in terms of the consequences in this moment, but don't we have to see all the following consequences? That everything that situation will engender, will lead to, will follow, and will become something else, become something else. And when would you ever be able to go, oh no, there's no further consequences, now I'm going to judge this. Now I'm going to say, no, I know this is bad or this is good. See, the thing is our purview is never large enough. You know, if we use our superficial minds or our surface minds, it's never large enough to entertain the whole scope of life, the vastness of the universe, the vastness even in the sense of time or timelessness. When would it ever be appropriate for us to know that this should not have happened in the great cosmic scheme of things? So that's what I want to play with today. You guys up for it? Can you expand your mind? Open your mind? Without any substances, I'm sorry. Carl Jung says that the greatest and most important problems of life are fundamentally unsolvable. They can never be solved. They are only outgrown. Think about that. And the mystic Julian of Norwich says, first there is the fall, then there is the recovery from the fall, and both are the mercy of God. Are we grinding here? It's like, wait a minute. Well, spend all day thinking about those. Too many doxes. A pair and another pair and another pair, yeah. So I'm going to read from this book, Falling Upward. And Richard Rohr says this: one of the best kept secrets, and yet one hidden in plain sight, that the way up is the way down. Or if you prefer, works either way. The way down is the way up. This pattern is obvious in all of nature, from the very change of seasons and substances on the earth to the 600 million tons of hydrogen that the, doesn't want to flip. Okay, let me start over. The 600 million tons of hydrogen that the sun burns every day to light and warm the earth. Paradox? And even to the metabolic laws of dieting or fasting. Yes, more is less, less is more. The down-up pattern is constant in mythology, in stories like that of Persephone, who must descend into the underworld and marry Hades for spring to be born. In legends and literature, sacrifice of something to achieve something else is almost the only pattern. Dr. Faust has to sell his soul to the devil to achieve power and knowledge. Sleeping Beauty must sleep for 100 years before she can receive the prince's kiss. In scripture, we see that the wrestling and wounding of Jacob are necessary for Jacob to become Israel. And the death and resurrection of Jesus, right? So we do not want to embark on a further journey if it feels like going down. That's where we're programmed. Oh no, going down, that's no good. No, going down, maybe it's a roller coaster and you love them. Especially if we have put so much effort into sound and fury, into going, right? Isn't our lives mostly about gaining, going forward, higher, achieving, raising our salary, raising our success, raising our children. It's all about raising up. And this notion that life should not be going down sort of, lives in this context of how we see life is supposed to be sort of like this addition game, like we're supposed to keep adding to our lives. And so when life seems like there's some subtraction going on, then the mind that, normally wants life to be added unto sort of goes on tilt. It's like, wait, there's something wrong with this picture, yeah? So what does that ask of us? That it asks that we sort of abandon the mind and allow the mind to just sort of chill out, right? And just, can you just be with this situation so that what's possible for there to be something that needs to happen in this situation right here, that this situation is not against me nor against anyone else, that it actually sort of lives out of a broader context. And I would say that the biggest obstacle to my spiritual life has been that my understanding of reality never was big enough. It always needed to kind of fit in the context of what my mind can frame, my mind can hold. But that's such a limitation. I mean, we know that we live in this amazingly infinite universe. And if the laws of the universe are to be honored and to be understood, then we have to kind of open up our mind to sort of be as vast and as unbounded as the universe. Does that make sense? So if I'm judging life according to a finite mind capacity, then I am basically ruling out the possibility that something that is even greater, that has not been imagined, could even be entertained. I have to somehow suspend this narrow-mindedness and open my mind to the field of infinite possibilities. Jesus said, what? He said, do not judge by what? Appearances. And so everything that the mind can understand is an appearance, isn't it? It's an appearance. An appearance can even be your thoughts and your feelings and your emotions and your memories. All those things are appearances. They're not the lasting truth. Anything that comes and goes, that changes, those are all appearances. The only thing that doesn't change is the being that you are. And I'm not talking about the mind or the body, but the being. This of us that is infinite. This of us that is always there. That's sort of like the witness that is observing your life. And this is happening and that's happening. And there's a part of you that just sort of sits back. And it doesn't sit back in passivity. It sits in the position of witness. It sits in the position of neutrality. It observes. It's like a really good reporter, none of which we have in the world. I'm sorry if you are one of those. But it's hard not to be influenced, leaning one way or the other. If our mind is involved, because our mind judges and our mind is dualistic. I like this and I don't like that, and that's good and that's bad. Well, if there's a part of you, which there is, it's your spiritual self, that judges not, that only is capacity, it's space for all to happen without judgment. And the good metaphor for it is like the space of this room. And I think I've maybe shared this here before. What does this room need to do to allow people to come in today? I mean, the space I'm just talking about, just the space, not the walls, just the space. Did it have to go, let's see, I'm going to let that one in, but I'm not going to let that one in? No. The space had to do nothing. And would it matter to the space in this room what we were even doing in this room? Whether we were having a church service or whether we were having a riot? The space of the room would be what? It would just be space. It would just allow. And so the spiritual masters tell us that In essence, that's what we are. Behind this body mind that we feel so attached to and identified with, there is this consciousness, this pure consciousness. And the pure consciousness is like the space in this room. It allows, it accepts. Now I'm not saying this from a human judgment perspective, like there's things in the world that we need to take a stand on, yes. But if something is happening or happened, then the attitude of acceptance, just being with it, allows us to stay out of our judgments, right? And if we stay out of our judgments, are we in touch with a vast realm of wisdom? Or are we attached to a mind that says, I like this, I don't like that, and this is okay, and this is not okay, and I'm going to be all right with this, but I'm not going to be all right with that. I mean, what do we really want, right? What part of us do we want to be identified with? And that's really what the spiritual journey is all about. It's like Jesus said, don't judge by appearances, because he said there will be trials and tribulations. He didn't say there will be trials and tribulations if you're a bad person, if you got bad karma, if your parents didn't raise you right, if God is punishing you. He just said there will be. It's part of the human journey. But then he has this crazy notion, be of good cheer, in the same sentence. There will be trials and tribulations, be of good cheer. I don't even think there's a comma in there. It's the most paradoxical, upside down notion for our mind to comprehend, isn't it? How could we be of good cheer if there's going to be trials and tribulations? Because we're not a body and we're not a mind. This is bad news for the body mind. Oh, trials and tribulations. That sounds like last week. It sounds like my last marriage. It sounds like my last job. On and on we go. Subject, if we are allowing life to hit us as a body mind, we are allowing ourselves to be resistance unto whatever comes. But if we can back up or go up higher in our awareness, and we can be space for life as it unfolds for us, then we have the capacity to allow life to do what life is doing without having this visceral reaction of resistance. And then from that mindset of openness, of acceptance, of infinite possibility, then we can make choices and respond to a situation rather than react to it. Does this make any sense? And that's where we want to be, don't we? I mean, it doesn't mean that we suddenly become doormats for life when things are going poorly and we don't like them, but we don't want to be in reaction. I don't want to be in reaction to life. I want to be in response, and I want to come from that part of me that's spacious and doesn't feel threatened and doesn't feel limited. I want to come from that part of me that knows that I am not just a body mind, that I am an infinite being of love and light, because that being does not get afraid. That being does not run and hide. That being doesn't shrink from challenges. It rises. It resurrects, because it has no fear of death and has no fear of limitation. The limitations that we experience as a body mind do not affect the spirit that we are. And when I'm identified with the spirit that I am, then the field of infinite possibilities opens up. So my actions are not dictated by some knee-jerk reaction to life. Does this make sense? So that's what falling upward really is. Let's see if I have anything else to say before I invite your thoughts. Page 2. Oh, there's just some more quotes. I'm quote heavy today. I apologize, but these are also great. Barbara Marx Hubbard, you know her, the futurist, passed on. She lived in Santa Barbara, and I got to meet her and speak with her many times. She's awesome. She said, "Crisis precedes transformation." Oh, bring it on, baby. I want to be transformed, right? She says, crisis precedes transformation. Before every quantum change, problems emerge, limits to growth, stagnation, unmanageable complexity, impending catastrophes, disintegration. From the perspective of the present, the crisis looks like mistakes, don't they? From where the surface mind, like deadly errors in the system. But from the perspective after the quantum transformation, these problems are seen as evolutionary drivers, vital stimulants, which trigger astounding design innovations. Crisis precedes transformation. And we all want to transform, right? We don't want to feel stuck in this life. And what if it's going to take a breakdown before there can be a breakthrough? That was one of my favorite talk titles years ago, Breakdown to Breakthrough. And without breakdown, there may not be a breakthrough, because breakdown is like breaking down something which is standing in the way of your growth, development, or unfoldment. And can be a breakdown of, well, in my life, I've lost a lot of things. Maybe you have stories too. You'll probably tell me in a minute. But losing jobs, losing money, bankruptcy. I've got the same partner for 44 years, so that didn't break down. But so often when I went through a major loss, my identity was shattered. What it required me to do was to reclaim a truer identity than the one that was invested in the thing that I lost. You get what I'm saying? Like, oh, I'm an executive, and I lose my job. What am I? I'm not an executive anymore. I'm not employed anymore. What am I now? And when I left the ministry the first time 4 years ago, walking around, I love the grandkids and everything, but where are my value? Where's my people? Going deeper, asking yourself, once this is no longer your identity, maybe it's time that you find an identity that is rooted in who you truly are, rather than the identity that you've adopted when you took on that job, that position, that level of success, that relationship, that amount of money, whatever it is. And here's the last reading, and then we're going to chat. This is, I think, by Dorothy Pearson, who was a Unity minister, a great Unity minister that I knew in Sacramento. It's called No Other Way. Could we but see the pattern of our days, we should discern how devious were the ways by which we came to this, the present time, this place in life, and we should see the climb our soul has made up through the years. We should forget the hurts, the wanderings, the fears, the wastelands of our life, and know that we would come no other way or grow. Into our good, without these steps, our feet found hard to take, our faith found hard to meet. The road of life winds on, and we like travelers go from turn to turn until we come to know the truth that life is endless and that we forever are inhabitants of all eternity. Yeah? So I want to ask you, how do you know this for yourself? Any one of us have had falls in our life that seem to be, Can you share a time when what looked like something that was taking you down actually brought you up in a different way? This is how we can make this message real for us, by reflecting in our own lives. So.
Yeah, I can testify.
Oh, here we go.
Yes, I love the quotes. Huh? I love the quotes, and I ran across a great quote last night. We're heading into winter, and I've been known to have depressive issues my whole life, right? This quote's from Jim Carrey. He says, if you're depressed, just think that it's your sign from nature that you need some deep rest. And I found that when I can do that, when I can go down into that, whatever it is I have to go down into and sit with it, sometimes I pray, sometimes I write poetry, sometimes I just lay around, but I get rest because I really don't feel like doing anything else. And I come out the other side eventually.
Yeah.
I'm going to go next. Just a real short thing.
Sure.
My mother-in-law was my mentor, my spiritual mentor for many years. And one of the things that she taught me that's just kind of stuck with me, and I've repeated it to other people, is that when you're in chaos, when that chaos comes, it's a wall. It's a wall that you're about to break through. So there is beauty on the other side of that. And there's beauty in that wall, because what's on the other side is unknown, but it's something that's quite wonderful. So she always, let me know that. And I remembered it for so many years and have passed it on to other people.
Yes.
So chaos is a good thing.
Yes. Very good. Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah, because walls, we tend to think of walls as stopping us.
Yeah.
And it may stop us from one activity, but it may, like you said, the wall may end up being, a passageway to a different life, to a different possibility. Renee. Yeah. Great. Well, personally, I'm really glad that you logged off. Eva, who's next? Put your hand up. Eva.
Hello. Hello. Can you hear me?
It was on, but it needs to be held up close to your mouth. Yeah, like an ice cream cone. Eva.
Well, I would say that all of us have done it just by virtue of being born. We had to break through in order to come into another world. That world was nice and cozy, but it got a little tight, right? And so all of us had to take that chance on taking the first breath. So once we did that, I mean, all of us have already been the heroes and have worked through the going down to come up. And then in my life, there's been plenty of times, every time the funding ran out and I was let go, I found a job that was better and used more of my skills. And so every time, the last time that happened, I just relaxed and said, okay, I'm taking a 6-month vacation.
Yes.
And that always brought more growth. So letting go of the fear of change, I think, has been a big lesson. And knowing that God has more plans for me than I can even imagine, and it's always better.
Right. Oh.
Maybe I should stand up.
Yeah,
Okay, there we go.
Good. Yeah.
So one of the most humbling messages for me that broke my heart open is I learned that there was some knight that was going to come and rescue me. Well, I didn't know the part. Was so strong-willed. I was going to choose that night. So I picked this guy, Randy, and you know, you can get obsessed when you're younger, a certain person. And finally, I thought, well, he's just not responding here to me. So I was sitting in the bath and I said, I am not getting out of this bath until you tell me, God or Jesus, why I can't be with this man. What's the holdup? And so I sat there, my skin got all, funny. And finally, the voice of God said, you are to love everyone else the way you love this man. What? I mean, it was like that potential beloved was taking up all the space in my heart. So first I went to the grocery store and there was a person with this crazy hat and gloves checking me out. And I opened my heart. And in my heart, I said, I love you. And I did that. Randy appeared. But then we had a 4-year relationship and it was obvious it was finished. And of course, my heart was hurting. And I said, talk to me again, God. And this was the message. Now you are to love this man the way that you love everyone else. Your heart is to love all people, not just one special person.
Sounds like a lot of growth there. Beautiful. Daya.
Taking that one in.
Is this on? Oh, okay. Talking about what you were speaking of the thing that happens that's a crisis and you think it's the end of the world, and then it's really the doorway to something else. I have some tears at the moment, so forgive me. Many years ago, 42 years ago, October, I was pregnant, and I was recently cast out of a spiritual community because I spoke up against some of the things that they were doing, and I believed very strongly in it. Felt like God had cast me out and that I didn't have any reason to live anymore. And I had this life growing inside of me that was 8-month-old at the time. So I went to my parents and stayed with them, and I said, I'll take care of you until you're born, and then I'm going to let you go, and then I'm going to go. Same kind of go you were talking about. And I was pretty sure I was going to do that. And I'm sure all the mothers in this room know, the moment they put her in my arms, it was like, oh, heck, this is love. Oh, okay. Whew, and that's been the greatest. She's been one of the greatest joy of my life. I've always called her the love of my life. And, crisis, transition, transformation. And I grew so much out of that experience spiritually as well. So yeah, alhamdulillah.
Beautiful. Thank you. Anyone else? Susan.
I have a drop-in center for homeless, and when I first started doing it, I was really worried about how things were going to work and how I was going to do all of this. And it wasn't too far in that I finally realized that I had to give it all up, that I had no power. And I saw the universe, I saw God bring everything that I needed to take care of everything that I needed. And people don't understand that when I say, I don't have to worry. Whatever I need, the universe is going to bring to us. And you just get to stand back and watch it happen. But I had to just get out of the way and just believe. Just believe, and it happens.
Beautiful. Yeah,
Can I say one?
there's something that precedes. I'm sorry, I just wanted to make a comment. I think there's something that precedes those kind of shifts oftentimes, and it's usually because we're like bereft of answers, like that emptiness, that feeling of when I was counseling people, they'd come in and they'd say, I feel so empty. And I go, perfect. You are in the perfect place for some insight. Spiritual insight does not come when you come and go, I know what God ought to be doing for me right now. I go, you know what? Come back when you have no clue. Because when you have no clue, then you really are receptive. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Yes, I just have to remember that I chose all this, the good, the bad, the ugly. And as long as I remember that, you know, I came to Earth School for this reason. But there's so much planetary darkness right now. And I guess, I don't know, being sensitive to it or something, I don't know, it's hard to, you know, let things go. And only, you know, I'm sitting around in a beautiful place with beautiful people with a beautiful life. And I just feel like there's just so much injustice, you know, for this, and trying to reconcile that. But like Renee spoke to, looking for the eternal, going toward the eternal is the most important thing, is not being tied in. I mean, I don't want to believe in duality. What if this is all just programmed matrix stuff? You know, I don't want to believe in good and bad and, you know, evil and darkness and all that. But I think I'm trying to, you know, reconcile with that. Because, I mean, this is, like you said, when we zoom out, that, you know, it's almost impossible because everything's infinite. And it's just hard to get a grasp of something much, much greater and larger than I can even ever imagine, but I keep trying. So.
Yes, losing our mind sometimes can be the best thing that happens to us. Because our mind has so limited, the finite cannot understand the infinite. No way. So if you get that, then you don't go there to try to understand. You go into, you know, to your heart, however you want to conceptualize this part of you that's simply being, and it's connected with all of life. That bears all things and knows all things, and rarely judges, and allows you to move, you know, with more grace through life. And no, it's not easy, but it is moving from the head, you know, out of the head into the heart space.
Yeah, thank you. Is it Jan? Jan the Caravan Jan? Well, Renee and I study Course in Miracles quite a bit, and that's one of the things that I've been stuck on, is this idea. It comes down hard on the special relationship. So that's what you're describing, is to be able to, the challenge is to be that open to everyone as you are with your beloved. So thank you for that.
Good. Anyone else before we do a little meditation? I think it's off now.
Hold it up really close to your mouth.
Okay.
There it is.
Today I wrote this from A Course in Miracles out of my notes. It had nothing to do with my talk really and didn't fit in, but basically from chapter 5, lesson 4, A Course in Miracles says, the Holy Spirit will help you reinterpret everything you perceive as fearful and teach you that only what is loving is true. If it's true, it's eternal. And so turning our focus to that. Thank you.
Yes. Good. So let's take a moment to go within, and then we're going to have a little town hall meeting afterwards. Should be pretty brief. Just want to touch in on where we are with our visioning process. So take a deep breath with me if you would, and drop from the head down into the heart space. Just let go of the notions of what life is supposed to be in this moment. If there's anything on your mind, let's just put it on the altar of truth. That which consumes everything, which is temporary and ephemeral. All that comes and goes is is not of the kingdom of God in which we live and move and have our being. Jesus said, there will be trials and tribulations. We're not being picked on. It's just all part of the human scene. But let's know that in this kingdom in which we do live and move, this dimension of life that is not simply body and mind, where we are made in the image and likeness of spirit, we are immune from the travails of the human life, of the challenges in the world. When we say life does not begin with birth and it does not end with physical death, that's what we mean. We are spirit. And the spirit bears all things. There's no boundaries or barriers or limits in this being that we truly are. Doesn't bump into life, doesn't need life to be a certain way to be okay. And so we come to times like this where we look inwardly to be reminded of this domain that Jesus called the reign of God, the kingdom of heaven. You can call it divine mind, unconditional love, the field of infinite possibilities. By any name, it's that which we truly are. And so we invite our willingness now to lay down our objections and our resistance to life as it's showing up. If there's anything that seems to be difficult, we embrace the grace of God, the grace that comes in the form of either a deep understanding or a deep acceptance. In either event, a profound allowing of what is to be. And knowing that there is only one presence and one power in the universe, and it is God the good. And there is no one and nothing against us, because there can be no one and nothing against the infinite. So we open our hearts to love. The love that consumes anything unlike itself. Any fear, any doubt, any worry cannot live in a field of unconditional love. So let us sit for a moment in the silence, allowing this love to radiate out in every direction, shining in even the dark places, bringing light, bringing peace, bringing a sense of knowing that all is truly well, as we truly are. So we give thanks for this time of remembering, of reclaiming our true divine identity, the safety and the wholeness that comes with that recognition and that deeper understanding. And we know that this is with us always, now and forever. and ever. Through whatever. Amen.